When setting up a temporary corral with cattle panels for goats, you need to have power on the inside to keep those goats inside of that solid panel, especially since they can stick their head through it and they can stand on it. We're getting the outline ready for this corral here, which will be for males. It's much further from the does and they'll be a little bit more relaxed. But this corral is designed for the goats to be able to come out into a paddock system. If you saw that previous video, I'll reference a link below, but this is a night corral and holding area for male goats that will spend time out in the woods. Eventually, we'll have very few male goats. Right now we have 4, and we only have 5 dairy goats. These are Nigerian dwarf goats, and the dairy goats, while they're in milk, will not be out in the woods. However, I would love to get some goats started in the woods, especially as we're clearing down the property line to get our perimeter fencing in. So we don't have perimeter fencing, so how do we approach a corral? So we want to approach the, by the way, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead, and this is part of our off-grid goats coaching program. So there's a flag over there, which is one of the well locations. And it is the furthest outer lying of the well based on the well permit. And so we don't want to be anywhere near that, because even though it's a temporary corral with cattle panels and T-posts and a little bit of a solar electric fence, most things on a farm are not temporary. You set them up once and then you don't take them down for years. But again, when we have the permanent field fence on the perimeter of the property, then this area should come down. So we chose to be 21 feet from the primary well location. So it's likely the well might be higher up the hill. You can see that little orange flag. It's likely it'll be higher up the hill, but the well company, in order to get a pump truck in here, requires that we have 21 foot of clearance. So I'm assuming if they were straddling this and they have 21 feet on either side of that flag, they're gonna have plenty of room. So I put in a stake of where the corral is gonna be. Now, how do we get the corral perimeter straight so that we can use the least number of panels to get the largest amount of space, as well as have our 2 gates in the system? So what we end up doing is we find the distance from our unmovable obstacles, which is the well. And even though the well doesn't exist, we have a design plan and we have an idea where the well is going to be. And understanding that that well point is from there all the way over to those containers. We don't want to take up too much of this corner. So I come down from the access point below these sets of trees so that if he was going to put the well closer to the road, he can still get access to it. The well folks can get access to it. And so we want to lay our gate location and a corner location where it's most likely able to be a permanent fence. Now, yes, it's a temporary corral with a temporary solar charger, but if this should end up being a permanent corral for some reason, we want to make sure that it's in a good place out of the way. So we lay down a first panel, and we would start from that corner, move in 1 panel, because we want to reduce the amounts of cuts. We don't want any cuts in these panels, because these damn things are $35 a piece, $25 a piece if you buy a bunch of them, and you know, stuff's getting hard to get. So we're going to bring 1 panel down, figure out where that end is. We're going to put in the 1 post for the gate, drill it, hang the gate, put the 2nd post in for the gate, and then we'll know exactly where the actual gate is on this side. Now, if we put up both gates, the gate on this side and the gate that'll be somewhere near that post with the 2 orange marks on it, then we're going to have kind of a mismatch on the outer ring. We want the widest perimeter possible for the least number of panels. So this panel's up. We have our gate in place. The next panel's up. And then we work down to our corners, which will be complete panels. And then we lay panels on the ground to find our back corners. So let's say from that corner to over there, we draw a line on the ground, or we drop a string. We lay panels in place, and I'm not going to sit here with the camera and show you every step by step. That's why we do on-site courses. There's several farms in this area that if you want to come out and work on-site, you can come out and build field fence and put up panel fences and everything. We're not going to sit down and do step by step on video. I just want to describe it to you so that you can get started. But that corner is so important because that corner designates how far we can go out in a straight line. Now, are we going to have an issue going this corner to that corner, 3 panels per se, then down from that permanent corner to set up a gate, and then down again to another corner to set this cross? Will these panels give us 90-degree corners and not have to cut any panels? Well, they will if we clear out the area and lay the panels on the ground so we can see where they go end to end. Now, we're using spiral connectors on these panels, and we're putting in the T-posts as we go. But you can lay down you can get this front set in place, and then you can lay down your panels on either side, kind of get an idea how far out you got to be. Get your gate in from a corner. So we go from our primary corner to the back corner, down one little wall, get the gate in, and then we can figure out the rest. Now, you can also do this with string, and you can measure the lengths with string, as each of these panels are 16 foot long. And if you use the spiral corners, then panels can go end to end. So you can have 2 panels create a 32 foot long length. So again, we're going to have 1 gate up, 1 corner up, and then we could either use string, or we can lay panels on the ground, or we can use some kind of measurement to determine where our other corners are, and then ultimately work around to the next gate that's on the string line, get that gate in place, and our corners will be closed. Now, you don't want a tight corner. I guess that's acute corner. You want a corner that's greater than 90 degrees or greater, because we're dealing with goats. Now, another thing you could do if you want a round corral, which is very interesting, and we've done that a little bit up there, is you could actually put your fence post in here for your gate, okay? And you have no corners, but you just simply start taking these panels and putting them end to end and stand them up till you get to the other gate on the other side. Because maybe you want your 2 gates right across from each other. That works at times, because then you'll end up with like 2 half circles on the outside. The only problem with that in this particular space is that I have more of a rectangular space to work with. So I want to use as much of this rectangular space as possible. And so a round bubble-like setup isn't going to be as well. But the reason I describe that to you is because if you get this front face in and you got corner to gate to corner, and it isn't quite right, so it's a little bit tighter than it needs to be, you can actually push out the middles of these panels and then put your T-posts in. And then what we've done here, because we haven't put the T-posts all the way in the ground, what we've done here is we don't have it's not a perfect trapezoid with straight line sides. We allow the panels to curve, which gives curve out, which gives us a little bit more space, because our stakes are in a little bit more, yet it's not completely round like a circle where you're going to lose your corners. Now, again, in the coaching program, we'll draw this on paper. We'll even pull up a satellite of your property, and we'll look at the terrain, because gates on the side of the hills like this actually are not a good idea. We may actually end up having the gates on the tops and the bottoms. This is a little narrow, and I don't like a gate on the bottom that goes out away from the property. So we're going to put the gates in here, and we're just going to kind of cut a pad so it is level. But again, we can draw fence designs together in the coaching program. We can go through a satellite on your own property. This is a minor slope here. I don't know if you can see that, but it's inches. It's inches in elevation. It's not going to be really a problem. In the case where you're going to put a gate on a slope, you want to put the hinge uphill. And so you want to also make sure that the bottom isn't that high. In this case, I could put 2 posts in the ground, have them equal height, and then just rake out the center or put a little fill in, so that the posts are equal height, but under the gate is flat. Because it's only a 4-foot gate. A little 4-foot gate in here, I can make it flat under the 4-foot gate. But again, practical implementation is not spending hours out here figuring out where posts should be, or it's not a big survey project. Look at that. The post even just fell down in the corner over there. It's not a big survey project. If you start with a corner and it is a distance away from immovable objects or roads or obstacles, and then you bring it down to a gate, you can then go from that corner again and work your way all the way around. A corral with 2 gates in it, why are we having that? Well, again, because these are going to open up to paddocks. So I can have a gate on the hill over there to get into the paddock, and then I can go over here and open my corral up and let the goats in the one side, or open a corral up from the other side and let the goats into that side. And so now I have my corral is actually in between 2 paddock areas, and then I can leave this corral open both sides or just one side depending on how much food's out there, and the goats have some place to run into and get into shelter. I don't have to move shelter everywhere setting it up this way. And so I can run them 2 or 3 acres the direction we're looking right now, and I can run them probably 1.5 acres in that other direction. And so I'm able to get the maximum use of the space, putting the corral in the middle, and then ultimately having 2 gates on the corral. So again, this is a low-cost way to get the corral up and running. If you need specific designs on paper, we can go as far as satellite images of your property and get the designs together for you, materials lists, everything you need. If you're a premium coaching client or a private client, we'll call Lowe's and get a list of stuff delivered to your property. That's how we work when it comes to the farm management or the farm support side. But do you see how this works out? We're not going to be fidgeting with this. It's imperfect. It's okay, but it's functional. It's functional, and if it ends up being here for a year or two, it's durable enough to stay here for a year or two. We can train the goats inside of this so the corral has got a hard wall on it with electricity on the inside, electric fence. We can train the goats inside of this before we put them out on a paddock with electric fence, mesh portable fences, fences that might be variable distances because they're temporary fences. If we don't get a perimeter field fence, because those things cost money, if we don't end up with a perimeter fence and we have high tensile wire, we can even have them trained before they're on high tensile electric wire. Folks, this is how we get these things up and running quickly. This is how we get results and get our homestead to break even. If you want to get your homestead up and running, or your small farm, if you want to implement permaculture design or regenerative agriculture right now so you can have food security, physical security, and opportunity in a changing world, then you're in the right place. Visit www.prosperityhomestead.org to ask questions on the contact page, to ask about the Off-Grid Goats program, to ask about coaching or consulting, or ask your questions in the comments below. I will spend time to answer your questions because I can't guarantee I'm going to be clear on a 15-minute podcast, but I can guarantee to answer your questions in a way that are going to help you get started today. Again, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. We are getting just everything measured out for our corral that is going to be in the middle of 2 paddocks, allowing us to start getting goats, even to get pigs up under these trees as the spring flush starts coming. We'll have infrastructure straight, we'll have our fencing straight, and we'll have this up and running faster than you can imagine because, again, we're using proven principles, design, and implementation. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next podcast.